The modern autopsy of Marie Antoinette, the body beneath the crown. They called her the Austrian woman, the enemy in pearls, the queen who told the starving to eat cake, though she never said it. But if we place Marie Antoinette beneath the modern autopsy light, the fairy tale shatters, because behind the diamonds and decadence was a woman suffering from exhaustion, malnutrition, and the slow, methodical unravelling of both body and mind. This is not the autopsy of a villain, it's the autopsy of a survivor, one who finally stopped surviving. The body arrives at Versailles. She arrived in France a teenager, 14 years old, a Habsburg princess traded like diplomatic currency. Her body wasn't hers, it belonged to a treaty. Every part of her smile, her waistline, her womb, became political. Doctors measured her, courtiers inspected her, and when she failed to produce an heir immediately, the gossip began. By modern standards, she was underweight, anxious and malnourished, a textbook case of what we now call performance stress disorder. Her menstrual cycles were irregular, her digestion weak, and her nerves frayed. Yet she learned the golden rule of Versailles: never let them see you bleed. The stress of a crown. If we ran blood work from those early years, we'd find cortisol through the roof. Stress hormone levels that damage the heart, weaken immunity, and accelerate aging. Because Marie Antoinette wasn't living a royal dream, she was living a public experiment. Every movement was watched, every meal analysed. Every morning her body was dressed by 20 women, layer by layer, into a symbol. The crown came first, her health came last. The endless pregnancies. When she finally conceived, the pressure only grew. She gave birth to 4 children, but only 2 lived past infancy. Her body endured what 18th century doctors called royal confinement. Days in overheated rooms, heavy brocade gowns, and little hygiene. She lost teeth from calcium depletion, developed hemorrhoids from childbirth strain, and may have suffered uterine prolapse from repeated labours. Her 4th pregnancy left her weak, pale, and permanently changed. Her hair began to fall out. Her complexion dulled. In portraits, the queen who had once been painted as Venus now looked almost translucent, porcelain over bone. The migraine queen. Modern medical historians now suspect that Marie Antoinette suffered from chronic migraine disorder. Descriptions from her letters, splitting pain behind the eyes with nausea and flashes of light, match today's criteria exactly. In modern terms, she was neurologically overloaded. Poor sleep, poor diet, relentless anxiety and hormone fluctuation. The perfect storm for migraines that lasted days. Her fainting spells and vapours weren't hysterics, they were neurological collapses. If she'd had access to modern medicine, she'd have been prescribed rest, hydration and possibly beta blockers. Instead, she got cold compresses and humiliation. The diamond body. Let's talk about that fashion, the silk, the wigs, the powder, the poison. Marie Antoinette's beauty routine was a slow act of chemical self-destruction. Her white face powder contained lead carbonate, her rouge contained mercury sulfide, and her perfumes were laced with alcohol and animal fat. A modern toxicology test on her hair would show elevated lead and mercury levels, explaining her thinning hair, tooth decay, and possibly mood swings. The powdered perfection of Versailles wasn't glamour, it was poisoning. The revolution comes for the body. By 1789, the revolution was no longer just outside her palace, it was inside her bloodstream. The Queen's health deteriorated rapidly. She lost weight from constant stress and food shortages at court. Witnesses said her cheeks were hollow, her skin waxen, her nails brittle. Chronic diarrhea and fainting fits were recorded, all consistent with starvation and vitamin deficiency. In 1791, she fled Versailles for the ill-fated escape to Varennes. The journey nearly killed her. She rode for days without sleep, under constant fear of death. Modern medicine would call it acute stress disorder, compounded by dehydration and exhaustion. Her adrenal system completely shot. The Prison Autopsy. Fast forward to the Temple Prison, 1792. The Queen is 40 years old but looks 60. She's lost half her body weight. Her gums are receding, her menstrual cycle has stopped, an early menopause triggered by malnutrition and trauma. She spends months in damp cells, sleeping on straw, infested with lice. Her clothes rot. Her hair turns white, literally, within weeks. A condition called Marie Antoinette syndrome, or acute stress-induced hair depigmentation. When her friend Madame Campan saw her before the trial, she fainted. The Queen's once sculpted face was gaunt, her skin sallow, her eyes sunken, but still defiant. The final morning, October 16th, 1793. Marie Antoinette wakes at dawn in the conciergerie. Her guards strip her of mourning black and dress her in plain white. She is led to the guillotine, her hands tied so tightly that her fingers swell. If we were to perform a physiological scan at that moment, her heart rate would be around 140 beats per minute, adrenaline surging, her body in fight or flight mode, the final flood of cortisol before cardiac collapse. Her pulse would have been pounding in her ears, except she was calm. Eyewitnesses said she apologized to her executioner after stepping on his foot. Her last words were not dramatic, they were polite. "Pardon me, sir, I did not do it on purpose." The modern autopsy. Let's lay her on the modern table. External examination. Female, aged 37, 5 feet 1 inch, severely underweight, pale, brittle hair, missing posterior molars, nail discoloration from malnutrition. Internal findings. Heart. Mild hypertrophy from chronic stress. Stomach. Signs of gastritis from years of anxiety and poor diet. Liver. Fatty degeneration, malnutrition and prolonged fasting. Bones. Demineralization consistent with calcium deficiency and prolonged confinement. Skin and scalp. Early depigmentation, stress-related. Toxicology. Traces of lead and mercury from cosmetics. Cause of death, modern, decapitation, but underlying conditions show extreme malnutrition, endocrine dysfunction, chronic stress and heavy metal toxicity. In simpler terms, she was already dying before the blade ever fell. The anatomy of defiance. History calls her vain, science calls her a miracle of endurance. The autopsy reveals a body starved, poisoned and broken, yet still upright to the very end. Her heart bore the stress of exile, her nerves bore the fear of death, her bones bore the burden of centuries of blame. The revolution took her head, but her body tells the story of how the monarchy was already bleeding long before the guillotine. Closing reflections. The official cause of death, execution. The modern verdict, exhaustion, physical, emotional and human. Marie Antoinette didn't die of revolution. She died of a lifetime of expectation. This was the modern autopsy of Marie Antoinette, the body beneath the legend. Subscribe for more royal autopsies, because sometimes the crown weighs more than the head that wears it.